All right, man. Welcome back to another episode of Rob Sports Center, man. And this episode gonna be a little different, man. This is gonna be a little different episode. So I'm gonna warn you guys beforehand. If you are a weak-minded person, if you are an excuse-filled person, if you're a non-accountability taking person, then this video is gonna be offensive to you, and it's meant to. So I'm gonna jump straight into it. So you look at the course of the sports world over the last 2 days, right? So we go to the Kansas City Chiefs game, and everybody say the refs won Kansas City that game, but don't nobody say the Texans lost that game. Nobody says what did the Texans do wrong. I made a video about that when I was addressing the Chiefs and the Texans. I was like, okay, y'all are so focused on what y'all are saying the refs are doing, but why aren't we focused on what the Texans are doing? Why aren't we focused on their kicker missing a 3-point conversion, missing two extra points? Why aren't we focused on that? Why aren't we focused on when they had a chance on fourth? They was going for it on fourth down, and the play clock was clocking down, and they hurry up and snap the ball with like a second left on the clock and snap it, and they wasn't even fully set up and end up having a turnover on downs. Why don't we talk about that? Why didn't the head coach call a timeout? Why didn't the offensive coordinator call a timeout? So you mean to tell me in this situation, nobody's paying attention to the play clock, the quarterback, the offensive coordinator, or the head coach, but we're going to put that blame on the refs, right? Now let's fast forward to yesterday. We had the Ravens and the Bills game. So once the Ravens lost, I knew everybody was going to put all the blame on Mark Andrews, which I made a video about that. All the blame does not go on Mark Andrews, and all the blame does not go on Lamar Jackson. The blame goes on that team as a whole, from the players to the coaching staff, because you win together and you lose together. It's just that simple. But we get to playing the blame game, and we don't focus on the overall aspect of things. So, okay, you say, all right, cool. Lamar Jackson throws the interception early on. I think that was the first quarter. Why did you throw the interception? What were you looking at? Why were you being that careless with the ball, right? Did that come from a lack of preparation? Did that come from a lack of focus? Did that come from a lack of effort? And it could have even been on the receiver. The receiver could have stopped running. The receiver could have gave up on the route and led to that poor throw, right? You go to the fumble. You fumble the ball. Everybody's saying it's the weather. Well, Josh Allen didn't fumble the ball. So what is it? Because they ain't fumbling the ball. They ain't dropping wide open catches. So why aren't we focusing on that? So Belichick, that's why I got the Patriots as this video that's playing. Belichick always stresses the fundamentals when it comes to sports. Well, football, right? What's the fundamentals? Fundamentals are tackling. So when you go and watch the Philadelphia Eagles game, and when you watch and you say, okay, you try to put whatever blame you're going to put on everybody else other than the Rams for losing that game, nobody pays attention to the fact that when Jalen Hurts ran that touchdown, he was supposed to have been tackled. He slipped out that tackle and ended up going down and scoring a touchdown. What was that? Poor tackling. Where does poor tackling come from? Improper fundamentals. That's what leads to poor tackling, right? Improper fundamentals. Not drilling the fundamentals enough and consistently. And that's where you lose the game at. Poor fundamentals. You look at the Ravens game. You look at Mark Andrews, 2 drops and 1 fumble. So 3 turnovers as a whole. 2 drops, 1 fumble, and that's fundamentals, right? Fundamentals is protecting the ball, learning how to hold the ball, right? That's fundamentals. Fundamentals is catching wide open passes, whether the weather is cold or not. You're in the NFL. I'm pretty sure at some point throughout your career, you played in cool weather or some of the not so nice conditions. But the same way you perform then, you got to perform the same way, because the game of football does not change. The weather conditions change, but the game of football does not change. But we want to put all the excuses. You get on social media platforms, everybody saying, oh, it wasn't Lamar Jackson's fault, yada, 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 and can come up with 1,000,001 excuses, except that they just didn't show up. And that could have been from a lack of preparation. They could have been from a lack of leadership, because where was the guys with those C's on their jerseys when they needed to make a play? Where was those guys with those C's on their jerseys when it was time for somebody to get up and say, hey, man, what's going on? We worked too hard to get to this point to just get here. We need to work on what we need to do what we know. We practice this. We practice this over the course of a regular season. We practice this over preparing for playoffs, the preparation. All of that is for the game. So what we do in preparation, that's all we got to do now. If I'm a cornerback, I just need to win my assignment. I don't need to worry about what nobody else doing. Whatever my assignment is on this play, I need to be locked in on that. Nothing else at this particular point matters. If I make the conscious decision to put these shoulder pads on, put this helmet on, put these cleats on, and walk through that tunnel and go play, I have an obligation to give my best to the game, to my team. And if I can't do that, I don't need to be out there on the field. And that's what I'm saying. Where was those leaders at when we needed plays to be made? Because the Bills was making them, but for whatever reason, the Ravens couldn't make them. The Ravens was turning the ball over, but for whatever reason, the Bills wasn't turning the ball over. You see what I'm saying? And what we do is, once the game is over with, now everybody go play the blame game. Everybody put the blame on here. Everybody put the blame there. Everybody put the blame here, right? So what that does is it creates a standard of non-excellence. Because back in the day, at a time, there was no excuses. We was taught, when I was coming up, I was taught as a receiver, if the ball touched your hands, you supposed to catch it. Point blank, period. There's no more excuses. I can't go to coach and say, oh, coach, well, he overthrew it. So you mean tell me you think every pass is going to be right on the money for you? You mean tell me that you think every pass you probably not going to have to take a hit to catch it? You mean tell me you think it's going to be some passes you probably not going to have to readjust your body to make a play? You think that every pass is just going to be right there for you? And if that's the case, then, man, you playing the wrong sport. Because that's just not realistic. Nothing in this world is guaranteed. Just like I said in my video when I was addressing the Lamar Jackson situation, and it's not. You see what I'm saying? It's not. And that's what the problem is that we have in sports today. When you look across the scope of sports, from basketball, you look at what's going on over there in terms of the lack of the competition and the ratings declining. Because nobody wants to compete. Nobody wants to battle, and nobody wants to hold anybody accountable. Everybody wants the easiest path to a championship nowadays. So if I can go join over here, I ain't got to worry about playing them. That's how we do it nowadays. That's how the world is wired. I'm going to jump to basketball. Prime example. Let me give y'all this, right? Nikola Jokic. So I remember the year that they won the finals, might have been after that year. I don't really remember exactly what it was, but it was probably like the last 2 years. They was interviewing Larry Bird, and they asked Larry Bird on his take on Nikola Jokic. Larry Bird gave his take on Nikola Jokic. He said what it was that he said. Now, listen to this last part, and that is what made Larry Bird Larry Bird. He said that he would have liked to have played against Jokic. Not with him, against him. Right? This world we live in now, you want to play with the good players opposed to competing and playing up against them. You want to go to a situation where everything is already put together and all you got to do is just fill in and it's automatically a championship. The road of no obstacles, the road of no hardship, the road of no failures. That's what we want nowadays. And if we don't get it, we get to making up excuses and pushing the blame on everybody. And one of the things I got to say, and I seen briefly from an interview with Lamar Jackson. Now we back on football. They was asking him, I guess they asked him something about the Mark Andrews situation. And Lamar was basically saying, man, I had an interception I threw in the first quarter. I fumbled the ball. So you can't just try to put all the blame on him. And I'm not going to even allow that to even happen. Because even if in my mind I am feeling that, at the same time, I know doggone well I made mistakes in this game as well. So who am I to look at him and say, you cost us this game? Because we all did. We all cost us this game. And it wasn't just no one person. And then even if you feel like, well, I didn't make no mistakes. Well, you didn't step up and be a leader and try to motivate your team when y'all needed it, when there was a lack thereof. I didn't see that. I didn't see nobody walking around the sideline slamming helmets and going off and calling people out and holding people accountable. So if you allow that to exist, then you are a part of the problem. Now we're going to jump to Bill Belichick. This is something else. This is why I did this video with him and Brady. And Brady even said that about a year ago, and I remember everybody was was so upset with him when he said there's a lack of there's a lack of excellence in the NFL, and he was just talking about in so many different ways, player development, et cetera, et cetera. I'm gonna save that video for another video, but for this one, so you go to Belichick. Everybody has been talking about the Belichick way and why Belichick isn't coaching because of the way he coaches. So I'm saying to myself, hold up. What is it about Belichick? Did Belichick ever call you out your name? Probably did. Ain't nobody going to admit to it, but that comes with it. My coaches have done the same thing to me too, right? Did Belichick ever kick you? Did he ever slap you? Did he ever, steal from you? Like, did he ever treat you bad in terms of a person? Or did he hold you accountable? Did he call you out in front of the whole team because you're bullcrapping, you're BSing, and we need to count on you and you're showing us that we can't? Did he do that? Did he hold everybody, including himself, accountable? So everybody's saying that he can't coach in today's game, and I'm saying you're right. And it's not because Belichick isn't a good coach. It's because this game is soft, it's watered down. Because if I'm an organization and I'm an owner, that is the standard of excellence we need to win. Because those championships that the Patriots won, it didn't come right away. That took time. And even in the process of winning, they had down years as well. So it was a process, right? But if I don't hold this level of excellence, we will not get to the point to where we're at. I'm going to be completely honest with you. If I don't hold people accountable, we will not get to we will not get to where we need to be. If I don't have people on my side that's willing to hold their teammates accountable, we will not get to where we're trying to get to. You know what I mean? And that's what lacks. That's what we lack in today's game. The lack of leadership and the lack of accountability. And that's why they say coaches like Belichick can't coach in today's game. That's why you have a very few amount of teams that's currently in sports dominating. That's why the Chiefs is dominating, because they live by that standard of excellence. The Chiefs have 1,000,001 excuses they could have went through. So the same excuses that the Lions can give and say that it was injuries, right? Chiefs had just as much injuries as well. But they still somehow find a way to win. So at some point, the excuses go out the door. I'm going to give y'all another example, right? So this is from the playoffs. Again, prime example, last week when the Rams and the Vikings played. And we seen how dominant of a game it was on the Rams end and how flabbergasted that the Vikings looked. And I had some people, my pops even brought this up. I love you, but you brought this up, and I ain't like that. And he said that, yeah, the Vikings didn't look like the same team. Some people were saying that they gave their game up to the Rams because of what's going on in L.A. And I said, let me stop you there, Pops. So I said, let me ask you this. What does winning one playoff game do for the state of California right now? You already have investors into California. You got guys, the former players that's played with the Rams. I'm pretty sure former players that's played with the Lakers, and even current players that's, trying to do what they can to help contribute to the situation that's going on in Los Angeles. But I'm saying, how does one game affect that and change that? Now, if you would have said a Super Bowl, I could have gave you that. But one game, and look at they at home this week. So I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. There we go with the excuses. There is no excuse other than the Rams defense suffocated Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold has showed us why he has been a backup quarterback, why he was demoted, and why he was only starting was because of J.J. McCarthy's injury, because he just isn't like that. He's not a starting quarterback talent in the NFL. Let's be honest. So when we see players like him fold, why are we surprised at that? Now, if you've seen that happen to Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, guys who we know is like that, then yeah, you might be like, man, it might be something off. But with a quarterback like him, what has he done since he's been in the NFL? So why were we surprised that they got beat down like that? If you are a weak team physically and mentally, that type of stuff happens week to week. But at what point do we say, okay, the Rams showed up and the Vikings didn't? At what point do we start holding them accountable? At what point do we say, oh, Sam Darnold, you was holding on to the ball too long? At what point do we say, receivers, y'all wasn't giving the effort trying to get open because y'all was frustrated because y'all wasn't getting the targets that y'all felt that y'all deserved? Right? Receivers, because y'all wasn't getting targets, now y'all don't want to block in the run game, so we can't even get the run game going because it takes a whole team effort to successfully do that. That's why I bigged up the Eagles receivers, because look at what they're going through in terms of the lack of their pass game. But guess what? They're still committed. They still blocking. They still are. You see what I'm saying? So that's my thing. It's the lack of excellence that we allow, and we give these excuses, and these excuses leads to the lack of effort that we see in between the white lines Sunday to Sunday. The same thing that goes on Sunday to Sunday goes on Saturday to Saturday in on college. The same thing that goes on Sunday to Sunday and Saturday to Saturday goes on Friday to Friday in high school. That lack of the lack of excellence that we tend to be okay with, and we accept mediocrity. We accept people saying, "Oh, I'm just showing up, just me showing up and putting on pads and walking out is enough, and I don't have to give effort." It ain't about it's not about what it's about is the effort that you give in between those white lines. That's what it's about. And when you get the results that you get in terms of disappointing games or disappointing losses, you deserve that, because all of that comes from a lack of preparation. It comes from a lack of focus. Drop passes, once again, it comes from a lack of focus. I'm trying to figure out, I was taking notes from a Belichick video and where he was talking about fundamentals. And I think this is what I'm looking at right now. And he was just basically saying, and it was episode 1 of their podcast, Coach. And he was pretty much just talking about, just situations in games where things kind of aren't going in your favor, similar to last night with the Ravens. And he was basically just like, based on film study and game planning, let's just make sure we are good. We good. We know what we know they are going to do. We will react to the new things they do, and we will adjust to them. Right. And that's a part of the process throughout the game. And at the same time, make sure that our communication is good. So those not being able to pick up, not doing blitz pickups, that's a lack of communication. Blown coverages deep down the field, that's a lack of communication. Not shooting gaps or not being in the right place defensively to try to come and make plays in the backfield, lack of communication. Offensive line wise, not working together, a lack of communication, right? So if our communication is good, that we know who we are blocking offensively, who we are covering defensively, and plus good fundamental football. In the end, football games are won off of good fundamentals. Example, blocking, tackling, throwing, catching, kicking. If we play good fundamental football, have good communication, and be aggressive, it will put us in good position to win. Not a guarantee, but it will put you. So what happened last night? What was good fundamentals? Blocking, tackling, throwing, catching, kicking. What are some things that we had a lack of? Kicking. What are some things we had a lack of? Catching. What are some things we had a lack of? Throwing. What are some things we had a lack of? Tackling. What are some things we had a lack of? Blocking. So at what point does all of that get put on one individual and not the whole team? Because Lamar Jackson can't block for himself. He can't go out there and run routes and catch the ball for himself. So at what point do we start holding the team as a whole accountable? Right? That's all I'm saying. And once we start to do that, and we don't give people these excuses up to why that they didn't show up and it's okay, then we will start to get that level of excellence. Prime example. I'm gonna give you guys another example. Like I say, man, if this is too harsh for you and you want to click off, I understand. But if you locked in, tuned in, and you right there with me, you understand, and we're on the same page. And I'm gonna keep on talking. And if you want to listen, just go ahead and stay tuned in. So, prime example, it was one year, I can't remember exactly what year it was, with the Lakers when they went to the playoffs after Shaq's departure. And they had ended up losing. I think it was the year right after Shaq had left. And they ended up getting to the playoffs, and I think they lost to San Antonio. And the interviewed Kobe after the last game, and he was saying, like, Kobe, like, you guys had a lot of things going on in the offseason, yada, yada, yada. He was like, do you think that it was Shaq splitting, or I forgot what else he said, that caused y'all to lose? And Kobe was like, the fact of the matter is we can go to 101 excuses. But the thing is, we're not. He was like, we had opportunities. It just didn't go for us. And they was the better team. He was like, for us, the offseason starts right now. And all we got to do now is just move forward. He didn't make up excuses about Shaq. He didn't make up excuses to say my teammates ain't shooting right. They ain't doing what they supposed to doing. He took full accountability for losing and big up the team that beat them because they deserved it. And guess what they asked him? What will you do to come out better for next year? Kobe stared off into space and told them, push myself past exhaustion. That's what I'm talking about. So that's with that type of mentality, that's where you get those 5 Super Bowl, those 5 championship rings. With that type of mentality. With that type of mentality, that's when you get those 7 Super Bowl rings from Tom Brady. That's when you get however many rings that Bill Belichick got. That's when you get those results, when you don't make up excuses and you just work. Same thing with Floyd Mayweather. We've seen what he's done over the course of his career. When everybody said he couldn't, when everybody said he ran, when everybody made up any and every excuse of to why he wasn't good, he came out fight after fight and showed y'all why he just was on a whole different level. But I remember seeing one clip with him sitting there working the heavy bag, and he said, "That's all I do. I work, I don't cry, I don't complain, I show up." And that's what it's all about. That lack of accountability is what gives us that standard of mediocrity across sports, all across the board. And it's not just football. That's all across the board. You know what I mean? So we need to get out of the excuse making and putting it on any and everybody else besides the people that's involved. So if you like raw takes on sports and somebody who's going to come on there and not say what's politically correct and going to say what the world and what they need to hear, because at the end of the day, it's all with the intention of making you guys a better team or a better player. That's it. That's all it is. Because if we allow you to make up excuses and to not take accountability, then we're doing you a disservice. So that's what this is about. And that's what makes this so enjoyable seeing, because you got some people who take that advice and say, you know what, yeah, I might could have done this better. And let me figure out different ways I could have helped and tried to motivate and get my guys rocking and rolling so we could have went out there and maybe gave ourselves a fighting chance at being one game away from the Super Bowl again. But now we at home on the couch and having to figure out what's next. You know what I mean? So that's my thing on that. So I just had to briefly get into that, man. That was just on my mind. I was like, man, because it gets annoying. Because like I say, when you look at my videos, all my videos I just post recently with the comments, everybody's saying the same thing. Everybody blaming the Texans' loss on the Chiefs. Everybody's saying, trying to find a way to wiggle Lamar Jackson out of them losing, that him being the reason why they lost. Everybody's trying to do that. And it gets frustrating and aggravating because I'm saying that's not going to help the situation. At the end of the day, they're still not going to the Super Bowl, however many excuses you make up for them. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. So that was, I had to address that, man. Like I said, man, if you like raw and uncut and real takes in terms of sports and things of that nature, then you're on the right channel. So if you do like that and you want to see more of that, make sure you subscribe. When you subscribe, click that post notification bell, the way you be notified every time I upload, man, because I got these videos dropping back to back, man. And if you enjoyed this video, by the way, too, man, go ahead and smash that thumbs up button, because I got more content like this coming. So, man, y'all just stay tuned, and I'll see y'all in the next video. I'm out this thing. Peace.